Welcome everyone to another Procure Tech Wonders series. We're here today with Arkestro, Shannon and Eric. I'm so glad that you guys are here today. As you know, the way that we do this, we do 15 minutes, give or take, of rapid fire questions. Shannon's going to be doing that today for us, just so that we can share a little bit more about what Arkestro does. And then Eric is going to take us through a 15-minute demo, and so we can see the capability of Arkestro. And then I'm going to finish off with the 3 things that I love about Arkestro and the 3 things that I don't quite love about them yet. And yet is the key word, because these technologies are constantly evolving and meeting the customer needs. So a little bit about Arkestro, and then we're going to get right into the questions. What I truly appreciate about Arkestro and what they're bringing to the marketplace that's truly different than anyone else is their price prediction capability and their game theory negotiation. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that today. Shannon, are you ready to get this party started?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so what do you do? Can you briefly introduce your company and its mission?
Sure. We are Arkestro. We are a predictive procurement orchestration platform. But what I really think it is, and it's above my head, is we help drive better buying decisions faster across all categories of spend. And we do it at a scale that you couldn't do on your own today. So when it comes to quoted spend, which is spend that you need a supplier to give you a price back on, we're going to help you drive better outcomes for that. You're going to be able to do it faster and at a scale you couldn't do on your own.
Fantastic. What an answer. That was great, Shannon. Way to hit it out of the park on the first one. Okay, second question. Why are you better than your competition? How do you differentiate yourself and showcase your unique selling points?
Sure. So I think that there is something to be said for AI these days. And granted, sometimes it's a bit of a snooze because I feel like we've been hearing about it for the last year. ChatGPT really changed the landscape for us. I think a few years ago when we talked about AI, it was really a scary thing and people didn't want to talk about it. People were afraid of how it was going to change their roles in an organization. But again, in the last year, if I hear ChatGPT one more time, changing jobs or taking away from things, I want to say no, no, no. And at Arkestro, we've actually had a foundation in AI since we were founded 7 years ago. And there's really 3 things that we use, or capabilities and ways we use AI that I think make us different. One is that we use machine learning. And machine learning is a portion of that. What we do is we look at all of the data that you have, and we use it to create a pricing theory approach. So how are we going to actually understand your data to help you get better prices? And we do it through something called auto baseline, which Eric will show you in a bit. But we look and go, hey, what are you paying in the past? And we should use that as a baseline to predict how you should pay in the future. So based on that baseline price, we will also then suggest a price that you should pay. So again, machine learning models look at past buying performance to understand what you paid in the past, and then also to predict what you should pay in the future. So I think the way we look at pricing theory is a little different than just, hey, what's the supplier going to bid this time? The second is we really do use behavioral science to actually guide buying decisions. So it's not just, let's just throw a number out there and see how it works. That initial number that we do give the supplier is a bit of behavioral science, kind of letting them know like, hey, here's where we want you to be. But then we continue that through things like dynamic feedback. We give very clear and transparent pricing information and guidance to our suppliers as to how they should work and how they can actually get ahead. And then part of that actually makes the third thing, which is suppliers like us. They like actually working with our Arkestro platform, which I think is fun. You know, I think we have a lot of customers, but our customers have a lot of suppliers. So we actually work more with suppliers than we do with customers. And suppliers love using our tool, our platform. I didn't say that. Suppliers love our platform because it's actually easy for them to use. There are things like magic links. They don't have to worry about logins. The UI is very easy for them to navigate around. And we have a lot of great feedback. We actually have suppliers that do references for us sometimes because they like using our system. It helps it make it easier for them.
Well, it's super interesting to hear about a supplier actually liking ProcureTech. So kudos to you guys. That's awesome. All right. Who is your target market? And explain what specific challenges you help them solve for.
Sure. So I think the different thing about our target market is we really look at manufacturing and supply chain organizations. We look at organizations who make their stuff to sell that stuff. So anyone that is having to buy a lot of materials to put into that are direct materials to put into their goods that they are going to go ahead and sell back. They tend to be Fortune 1000 companies, Fortune 500, 1000 manufacturers, as well as their suppliers. And the challenges that we find that our customers have are sometimes standard challenges that we see within procurement today. A big one is the knowledge that people have. So we have really smart category managers that we work with that have this deep, tribal knowledge that we'll say of all this information, who they should buy from, when they should buy it. So they know so much about what they're doing. And in some cases, that's great because they know exactly who they should buy from, when they should buy it. But it can also be a double-edged sword because it's sometimes easy to be a little complacent and just say, hey, I'm going to call this supplier up. I know that they'll always give me, they always give me the best price. So, hey, I need to get this and just, here's what I need, give me a quote, and I turn it into an order. So what we're able to do is help them negotiate faster and better, and even with sole and single source suppliers that they often use, things like spot buys are able to our customers are able to get ahead in those cases. In the past, they might have been a bit compliant. Now they can actually go and look at getting better, get a better pricing for materials and things that they couldn't have done in the past. Just they don't have the manpower to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Okay, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how you price. So how do you price, and not to give us a price, obviously, but how do you calculate that price, and what is it based off of?
Our pricing is actually pretty simple. It is spend through our platform. We look at spend through the platform, but also we look at the data we might be using as well to understand. So it's a lot of it based on your pricing history, but what are you actually going to run through the platform and what kind of savings can we expect you to achieve?
Awesome. I love when it's simple.
Just simple.
I think more people should do that. Okay. All right. Why should we be excited about where you're going? What's your vision for the future?
Well, I've been in procurement for like 25 years, like a really long time. And I think about when I started, my very first job was I was a buyer in a procurement department, and I used green screens. It was control, backslash, query enter. And what I've seen procurement do really in that first decade of working was move to GUI or self-service. And we saw procurement get more specialized and more functionally specific. So it went from just recs to POs, to looking at sourcing, to looking at contract management, supplier management. So I really think a lot of my time in procurement has been about digitizing the procurement process. But what I'm excited about what we're doing at Arkestro is really using that data to make better and more informed decisions. And one of the things that we've learned with all that data is it's dirty. We think like, oh, we live in this world of data and we can do so much with it. But dirty data causes problems, and it actually stops people from moving forward. So at Arkestro, we're doing a lot of cool things around entity resolution. We're actually able to look across all your data, all of your spend, and actually find, hey, I'm actually buying this in a lot of different places, even though I might call it 123 here and 12-3 there. And then also supplier entity resolution as well is a big thing. So we're doing more and more with entity resolution to understand data to make better buying decisions. And in the past, we've really spent the last couple of years focusing on the enterprise. So who's buying what right now? But we're putting together, some new things coming down in our roadmap around qualified insights. So not just looking at what you're buying today in a particular event, we're looking at what should you be buying and when should you be buying it. So actually using your data to help create qualified insights to help you get ahead of the game. Like we know your buying decisions, we know your patterns. We can actually start to look at market data to see what's happening out there and help you make some better decisions. So going from kind of single event to managing your spend better across the enterprise.
That's fantastic. A lot to be excited about, that is for sure. So I would love for you to take a moment to highlight a success story that that showcases your impact.
Sure. So one of the customers that I love who actually won't let me use their name. And I really had this whole debate, like, do I tell this story or do I not tell this story? But it is kind of indicative where sometimes we struggle because our customers actually save a lot of money with us and they become the heroes. They're the ones that are doing so much better in the organization. They're helping to drive margins down. But by doing so, they don't always want to tell everybody they're doing that. They're hitting their bottom line in a great way. And we
Yeah,
actually find that we've done a lot of research, and our customers tend to save on average 16% within their first 60 days. So they're able to get up and running really, really quickly. And we have one customer that really used some of the great functionality we have called intelligent counteroffer. And what intelligent counteroffer does is when you're buying things and you don't actually have buying history, you don't know, what you've paid in the past, they were able to use this ICO feature to actually help them create new baselines when bids come in. They're able to look at that and then use machine learning and understanding the past buying history of Arkestro clients as well as how they buy to actually put a counter offer out there and say, hey, you know what? You should actually be supplier, you should actually be like bidding this price instead. And that really drove prices down for them quickly. They had a $10 million savings target, which it's kind of small for some people, but it was in like their first year. They hit that within the first 7 months of using Arkestro. They planned on rolling us out globally by 2025. They finished that rollout in 2023, and they even managed to hit their international savings targets within that time period. So we found that, they made these plans of like, hey, we're going to roll this out slowly. We're going to just see how it goes. And we were actually able to get them or help them get the savings that they needed to achieve right away.
that's incredible. What a fantastic story. Okay, last question of our rapid fire. You still have a little bit of time left. So tell us the most common mistake that leaders make when deploying Arkestro. And I know it's a little tricky question because you don't want to talk about the dirty laundry, but it's always good to share learnings.
Yeah, I think that the biggest decision or the biggest problem people tend to make is indecision or analysis paralysis. And I actually really appreciate my CEO talks to me all the time about Shannon, let's just try something, see if it works, fail fast, but at least try something. And again, we will find that with customers, they won't want to get started, they won't want to roll things out, or they'll think like, oh, let's just focus on one commodity area of spend. And what we found is when people embrace the change, they can just do so much better. And that's why actually partners like Wonder can be fantastic in that because you can't always do it on your own. It's often imperative to have a third party come out and actually give you that guidance of how you need to try something new and try something different. So I really find that indecision can be a big problem. People ask us, who's your competition? Who do you run into? And often people will reach out to us because they have savings targets. They have things that they're trying to achieve, but they're also sometimes not willing to take that first step. And one of the exciting things we had at an all hands a couple of months ago is we had a client come and speak to us. And when I asked them in kind of in the Q&A, what did you really get out of using Arkestro? Their response, how did this help you and your company? Their response was actually it allowed them to think about doing things differently. It allowed them to be a little more innovative in their approach to the way they were buying things, but also in the way they were selling things and the way they were thinking about their own products and services to do, because they realized that they needed to keep trying and doing things differently. So again, I feel like that's it. People just need to get off the bench and give it a go and try, fail fast, succeed. But if you just stay stagnant, you're going to lose. And we do find that, we look when we talk to people and we do savings analysis plans for them, the longer they wait, the less they're saving.
Absolutely. It's speed to savings, right? Yep. That you guys provide. That's awesome. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for being on the hot seat for your rapid questions. You did a phenomenal job. I know, round of applause for Shannon. And now we are going to turn it over. I'm going to start the timer again, Eric, for you. Are you ready for this?
That's fine. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and dive into the demo portion of what we're doing today. And I'll hand it over to you, Eric.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Can you see my screen? And is it a
Yes,
demo?
it is a
Perfect.
demo. It says dashboard on it.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to focus on the main feature functionality of the predictive procurement orchestration that we have here at Arkestro. But before I do that, Arkestro is also an embedded platform. So with all those feature functionalities like we were talking about and hitting the manufacturing space and the Fortune 1000, we also can be embedded in really any ERPs, P2Ps, MRPs, any acronym that you come up with that you're currently utilizing where you have demand signals. One of the use cases we typically see is you're buying so much stuff and you don't have the time or the people power to really focus on all of it. So we want to try, even on the long tail, bringing that into the solution from P2P solution that's a non-catalog, and we can run as autonomous as possible. Or your high dollar, high risk, if you have it in your ERP system and you have strategic sourcing, that can be brought over into Arkestro. Your strategic sourcing team can be notified through the platform. And that's what we'd be looking at here. So if it comes in from an embedded platform, it will come here. We'll utilize templates here to then pre-populate information when it comes into the platform. Or if you simply want to log into the platform and run an event, you can easily do that as well. But let me actually jump into one of my events that I have running here. And again, I'm not going to focus on all of the feature functionality table stakes that we have. I really want to focus on the cool things that we're doing here at Arkestro that really set us apart in the industry. So on my overview tab here, I'm going to have everything front and center. So if you're a category manager and you want to know about what's going on with your team and the event, you can see everything about the request, the status of the request, the spend that's going to be on it. You can see here that round 1 is complete. The final round is ongoing. I can see all the documents, my NDAs, terms and conditions, and any submitted quotes. So very straightforward on the overview page for a team leader. Now, if you're a buyer though, and you're coming in, you need to buy something. Again, whether it's coming in from, another demand signal from an ERP, or you simply came into the tool or the platform here and loaded it from a CSV, the first thing that we're going to do is have that baseline price. So this is where we're looking at all of your historic spend. So requisitions, POs, invoices, receipts, contracts, past sourcing events. We want all the data possible for as long as organizations can give us, because we want your best last paid price. You could have a user in location A who's a senior veteran, category manager, has been buying it for 20 years, knows the suppliers, has it under contract. Or you could have a new hire in location B simply going to the vendor up the street because they don't know any better. They don't have the tribal knowledge. They don't know to go contact the other buyer at the other location. So we want to utilize data to say, okay, you're buying the same thing. This is your best last paid price for that item. That's where we want to start as a baseline. Then we take it a step further. If I come up to my preview tab, this is where the machine learning comes into play. So here we can see I have all my suppliers that are on the event. And if I break it down by supplier, we're going to actually have a suggested price per unit. So this is where the machine learning, artificial intelligence come into play. So we're looking at all the different factors that go into the buying process. And we actually found that it's not so much what you're buying, but those other factors. So how much you're buying. Is it, 1 or is it 10,000? How many suppliers are going to be on it? 1, 5? Do you have an incumbent? Is it going to be under contract? All of that's going to play a factor into a predicted discount from that baseline spend or the baseline number that we then anchor on and send out to the supplier. So it's a reasonable starting point in the negotiation saving a lot of time and effort for the buyers, but also the suppliers as well, because it's both reasonable. It's not a discount by 50%, hoping that the suppliers bite. It's a reasonable starting point based on all the data, that's where the negotiation would be close to ending anyways, right? Now, another thing that we're going to do is also make recommendations on suppliers. So not only are we going to say, okay, here's your last starting point, we're going to then also anchor on a price, send it out to the suppliers, but we'll also say these are the best suppliers for what you are buying. So in this case, you can see I have a recommended supplier here already front and center that I can add to my event for this. And this is, again, it's not just the suppliers that have the lowest price. It's looking at the data as well. So if we see that you're returning 50% of your items to a specific supplier, we don't want to recommend that supplier. The quality assurance is not that good, right? So we can also look at lead time. You know, if you have a diversity or ESG initiative, looking at the ratings for your suppliers that provide those items. So all that's going to play a factor, not just your lowest price for that item when we make supplier recommendations. So that's on the buyer side. So they come in, they say they need to buy something. We say, okay, this is your best last paid price. We run it through machine learning, artificial intelligence to say, this is a suggested starting point or a predicted discount we want to anchor on, send out to your suppliers. We recommend the suppliers to send it to. But like Shannon mentioned, we like to make life easy for your suppliers as well. So let me transition as the supplier here and move over to their perspective. So they're going to receive an email from an organization. It's going to have everything that they need for this particular email. Now, the great thing is as well with our platform is we've talked to suppliers and they hate supplier portals, right? You have to log in through the P2P platforms, the supplier onboarding platforms, the other sourcing platforms. So it's really a pain. And half the time, the person who has the login shouldn't have the login. They have to go call support or get access from someone else and they don't remember. So it just becomes a pain. So what we did was actually we attached the bid sheet directly to the email. They can bring it up, fill it in, and email it back. They don't have to go into a supplier portal. So if they're used to just email and spreadsheet, they can stay status quo. They don't have to go and learn any new technologies. However, we also understood that as well. And you know that you have to go into a platform. So we have a very DocuSign-like experience where you can simply click a link. It's going to bring you into the platform. It's going to redirect within our platform here. And it's going to have everything that they need front and center and walk suppliers directly through it up here at the top. So you have your event overview, any key documents you need to have, any survey questions, and then getting into the particular quote, we have all the information here where you can show additional details, lead times, because that plays a factor, not just lowest cost when we're looking at things. Now, the other aspect, though, is we're going to go ahead and have the suggested price per unit. So that price that we suggested, that we anchored on, we're going to have that here, and that price per unit filled out for the suppliers. So if you imagine, a 300 line item bid sheet, or even more, the supplier's going to have to sit there and go through all of it. If we're making a suggestion, again, this is a reasonable starting point for both parties within the negotiation. It's going to save them a lot of time, save them a lot of effort. Now, they have full control and ability to make adjustments. So here you can see with line 1, it was $215 suggested for this line item. The supplier says, okay, that's perfectly fine. I can't do that. I can do $275. They made that adjustment. So when we came back in round 2, we're going to give them feedback for each one of their line items, letting them know exactly where they stand within the bidding process. So how competitive was their bid? In this case, you can see for line 1, they're in 3rd place. They need to reduce their price by roughly $113,000 to be more competitive. However, line 2, very competitive. They're top 2. They don't need to reduce costs right now. However, they can, because we won't say that you're in 1st. We're not going to tell you that information as the supplier. So you're still going to have competition there as your top tier. You won't know exactly where you stand, so you still may want to reduce your cost. But this is really getting into the human game theory aspect, where there's a fear of missing out, prisoner's dilemma, a reward uncertainty aspect that we provide for our clients that use our platform. But the suppliers actually really enjoy knowing where they stand. They say it's a transparent trust, saying they don't have to call back their buyers and say, hey, let's have the back and forth, that contingent relationship. They know exactly where they stand directly in the platform, and they could focus on the other things, the building the relationship with the buyer. And if there are any questions or other aspects saying, hey, I can't provide line one, but I have something similar, will that work? You can start working on those things rather than the back and forth, because they know exactly where they stand. And then finally, before I wrap up here, if I transition back over to the buyer side, and let me actually, sorry, I was being blocked by something here. And I come over to the award scenarios. So this is where we get into that total cost of ownership, not just lowest price, where we can look at it by line item, by lot. We can start making split awards, whether it's a preferred incumbent, your optimal value. So you can start adding weight to your questions that you ask. Say if you're a diverse supplier and add weight to that. So 50% is weighted on the actual price of the item. The other 50% can be on a weighted scale for questions that you ask and the answers from the suppliers. And then of course your direct lowest price. So if you're doing a 3 bids and a buy, you simply want to have a winner take all, lowest price. We can certainly do that. Or if you care about lead times and you want to put an emphasis on the weight of that answer and you need it by tomorrow, and the answer to that was yes, I can provide it tomorrow, we can do that through the highest score as well. So we can look at a lot of different things within the platform when we talk about total cost of ownership and awarding as well. But really, those are the key highlights that I wanted to focus on. So a buyer, whether it's embedded or you come directly into our platform, they put in what they're buying. Our system's able to quickly tell them their last paid price for that item. And if they haven't bought it before, we can do that intelligent counter offer that Shannon was talking about. We then say, based on machine learning, artificial intelligence, this is the suggested price you want to anchor on and start the negotiation. And then we recommend the key suppliers. And when we send it out to the suppliers, we make life easy for them with a DocuSign-like experience. And then also utilizing game theory through giving dynamic feedback within that process. And then you bring it back into the platform to where you can do award scenarios of total cost of ownership. And then finally, when you do actually award to a specific supplier or suppliers, we can then export that information back to the demand signal. So whether it was a P2P system or ERP, we can update that demand signal with the supplier, with the price, wherever they need, or our clients cut their POs within their system as well. So with that, I hope this was very informative for looking at Arkestro's predictive procurement orchestration, and happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Awesome, Eric. You did that with 1 minute and 30 seconds to spare. So job well done. I know. I do have a question for you. When you say that this can work with like demand generation, like your MRP or something, can you launch into Arkestro right from those systems?
Yeah. So typically
Okay.
it's one of those things where it's, hey, if you have like an SAP or something and you have filling out a requisition or something along those lines, you can have a little button that says send to Arkestro and pull your revenue. So
that's so cool. Okay. All right. Well, Eric, thank you so much. Shannon, always a pleasure. You guys rocked this today. Thanks for being on the hot seat, and appreciate the introduction for all of our watchers, fans of Wonder and fans of Arkestro now, so they have a better understanding of what you guys do. So I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye. All right, now you just have me. So we're going to do 3 things that I love about Arkestro and 3 things that I don't quite love about Arkestro yet. I know they're always working on things. So I was taking notes as we were going through that demonstration. 3 things that I absolutely loved hearing today from Arkestro. The intelligent counteroffer functionality that Shannon was going through is something that's, I think, fairly new to them. There was always a question when companies were going out and leveraging the price prediction functionality was what happens if I haven't bid this before, or this is a brand new part. So they've solved for that. And I think it's really interesting because as you're going out, you're launching new products that you're manufacturing, having that kind of intuitive, those insights for that counter offer is going to be a game changer for anyone who's using Arkestro. So super excited to hear about that functionality today. I also am really thrilled that they're considering how people interact with their platform. A lot of procurement users don't like going into all of the different applications that are out there for procurement these days. Same with suppliers. You heard that from Eric. Logging into yet another application is not just how people want to do their work. So the ability to launch from, let's just say, your SAP ERP or any other ERP right into Arkestro, I think is really smart for them to do. So you don't feel like you have to log into yet another system. You can launch from where you're doing the work today as a buyer or as a category manager if you're involved in that, or a materials manager. Super, super smart move that Arkestro is making. The last one, and I commented on this when Shannon mentioned it, but you don't hear often that suppliers like using these systems. When you saw Eric today, how seamless it is for a supplier to engage with their system, I think, again, very smart design from their standpoint. If you can remove the barriers of enablement, and coming from me as a change management expert and what we do at Wonder Services, always tough to sell these sourcing systems into a supply base because they think they're going to lose margin and it's yet another portal to go into. And they've just removed all of those barriers and made it really as a tool for the supplier to use to be more effective at A, their pricing, and B, their ability to win the bid. So kudos for them for thinking about the suppliers and really creating an experience that is wonderful for the supply base. Okay, 3 things that I don't quite love yet, but I hope that they're working on because they've been working on a lot of other things. I think Arkestro, with the data that they have and the data that they're using in the system, they can provide a lot more insights than what they're providing today. So as they continue to aggregate data and leverage AI, they mentioned today that obviously they do the price prediction and maybe trends around when you should be buying things and suggesting suppliers, which is all great. But it would be really interesting to get other kind of alerts coming to you from that data that, hey, maybe we just bid something and received a price, but we're seeing through the data that another supplier is being used instead of the supplier you have on contract. Or you could understand, okay, for this landscape, how many different suppliers do I have, and is there an opportunity to consolidate? Or maybe you buy this same item from 15 different suppliers, but you call it different things. Is there an opportunity to maybe cleanse your data even further? So I think they're right in that sweet spot of where they could start leveraging this data to provide so many more insights to buyers, material managers, and sourcing and procurement teams in general. So I hope to see that from them. Okay, on the sourcing side, I would love for them to be able to predict what questions you should be asking. So as you saw in the sourcing part of there was like an overview and then questions and then the pricing, and they're very strong on the pricing side, but how cool would it be for Arkestro to tell you what questions you should be asking based off of what you're buying, based off of the commodity that you're buying it under. Like there's so many other things that you could be gathering and like, oh, that's a question that I would have never thought of. And maybe Arkestro can help us be more efficient in that manner. And then you can just simply review the questions, delete the ones that you don't want to use, or add some additional ones on that maybe are requirements for your business. And then the last one that I would love to see from Arkestro is that super cool award analysis that they had at the end of the demo. I have noticed that some other systems out there allow you to create your own scenarios. So for instance, you could say, I want 10% to go to a diverse supplier. I want 20% to stay with our incumbent, but the other percentage of this bid we can award to the best of the best supplier who responded with their pricing. So seeing more flexibility, more customization in the award scenarios would be an awesome thing for our community to have, so they can get very specialized in what they want to see from that bid analysis. So with that said, I hope you loved learning a little bit more about Arkestro. I know I did. And hopefully this is useful for you as you are exploring the next best technology for your Procure Tech stack. Until next time, I'm Amanda Prochaska. Thanks for joining in. Hit subscribe, hit like, and follow along for our next Procure Tech Wonders series.